Hey everyone and welcome to the channel. Today's video is unlike any I've ever tried before. I want to try and tackle a whole week's worth of lunches in one video, but to make it a bit harder on myself, I want to try and see if I can get 7 lunches from one humble chicken. As well as getting all those meals out of one bird, I don't want to just be eating the same thing for 7 days in a row, and I also don't want to spend 2 days in the kitchen putting this all together. But with a little planning, I think we can make something pretty tasty. If that sounds like something you're into, hang around to see how this one turns out. The trick to getting this many dishes done in a reasonable time frame is going to be using some of the ingredients in multiple dishes. I do just want to take a moment to say that in my searching for meal prep videos on YouTube, I noticed that all the videos I could find are based on fitness people, or trying to make the cheapest food possible. This video is an economical way to cook, as in it won't cost a fortune, but the only fitness we'll be focusing on today is fitting this in my mouth. So I'll get all my chopping done quickly at the start, so that when everything is cooking, we won't have to worry about that later. The idea we're shooting for here today is all simple recipes, all done together to save time and money, but still be really tasty in their own right. Basically all we need is some chopped onions, a little chopped garlic, well probably a lot of chopped garlic, some ginger, carrot, celery, red capsicum, choy sauce, and a few spring onions. When it comes to planning a cooking day like this, I like to try and think about the appliances that I have on hand. As I'm going to have a few things cooking at the same time, I don't want to be waiting on things to cook in the oven, or have my stove too stacked to be able to put something else on. So this whole idea started with a whole chicken. Not gonna lie, it's a big one, coming in at 2.1 kilo or about 4.5 pounds. I'm not sure if it's the same everywhere, but I know when I'm shopping for a chicken, the larger ones are usually a bit better price per kilo, meaning I usually get the bigger chickens for about the same total cost as a smaller one. If breaking down chickens is something that you've never tried before, it's a great way to save a few pennies, and it doesn't take long at all. We'll start by feeling in around the inside of the legs, and just gently poke at the skin a little to make them lay flat. Hold up, what's that in there? Then move the leg around and feel down at the bottom to get a feel of where the leg meets the spine, and pop your knife straight through the joint, working the tip of the knife down along the spine. Next, feel along the breastbone, and make a small cut down one side to get you started, then tease the meat away from the breastbone. Take your time and try to leave as little meat on the carcass as possible. I've left a little bit too much behind there, but it's been a while since I've done one of these. Then just repeat on the other side, and that's our breasts. I'll knock the wings off by just feeling around the drumette bone with the tip of the knife, and they can go to the side. I don't need the skin on the breast for today's recipes, and it pulls off quite easily, so I'll whip it off and put it to the side. Then all we need to do is knock the tips off the wings, and don't chuck them away. All these bones are going to play their part in today's recipe. Then I'll grab the legs, feel for the joint at the base of the drumstick, and run the knife through. Alright, that's all done and looking pretty good. We have our skinless breasts, bone-in thigh cutlets, our wings, drumsticks, the wing tips, the carcass, and a little excess skin. The only thing I don't need today is the skin, so that can go in the bin. I'll get all of my cuts onto a plate so they can be set aside. I'm going to make a quick chicken stock from the bones while we cook away today. I want to break them up a little. I don't have a cleaver, but if I just struggle along, I'll get these broken up into a few pieces. I want to get this stock on as soon as possible, so I'll pop my chopped bones into a large pot, followed by a mirepoix of onions, carrot and celery. Fill the pot with cold water, pop in a couple of bay leaves, and this one can go over onto the back burner to come up to a boil. I want this to cook for at least 30 to 40 minutes before doing anything else with it, so I'll crank up the heat, bring it to a boil, turn it down to a simmer, giving it a good skim along the way. Now we can get on to the main parts of our chicken. For the thighs, I'm going to be marinating them in a honey soy glaze. Into a medium-sized mixing bowl goes a little soy sauce, a splash of sesame oil, and some honey that seems to be putting up a fight in the cold, and a little chopped garlic and ginger. Then I can give it a mix and pop my chicken thighs in. Flip them around a little and pop them aside for the moment. For the drumsticks and wings, I'm thinking of a similar process but with a Korean touch. Into another mixing bowl goes some more soy sauce, round 2 with the honey. To bring the heat, some Korean chili paste, and finally, a little more chopped garlic and ginger. Again, give it a good mix, pop in our drumsticks and wings, and this can go and hang out with the honey soy chicken and marinate a little. For the 2 different types of chicken we've just marinated, I'm going to knock out the same size for both to save a little time and reduce the number of things on the shopping list. First, some coconut rice. Into a medium-sized saucepan goes a little long grain white rice, followed by some coconut milk, a little water, a good seasoning of salt, and a spoonful of sugar can make anything good. Then it can go onto the stove to simmer with a lid on until all that liquid is absorbed. The other side we're going to put together with the baked chickens. Is it chickens? Chickens? Is a little stir-fried choy sum. Any Asian green would work great for this, but I really like the rich tender texture of the choy sum. Into a preheated wok goes a little oil, then some chopped garlic and ginger. Give them a quick flick about, and then in goes the choy sum. Because this whole thing is about meal prep, and this will get reheated, I want to really lightly cook this so it isn't mushy when it's reheated. So it can just get a really quick sizzle, and then in goes some soy sauce and oyster sauce. I'll give that a quick mix, and it can go onto a plate to hang out. Alrighty, we've killed enough time making a couple of sides that we can say our chicken is marinated, so time to get cooking. Onto a greaseproof paper lined tray, I'll pop the honey soy chicken thighs. And then to the other side goes our Korean drumsticks and wings. I'm not too worried about having these on the same tray. If a little marinade runs all over the place, I reckon that can only make things better. And I'm not done with these marinades yet. I'm going to baste the chicken a few times to build up that flavour a little, so these can just go to the side. Then a little seasoning with salt and these can go into a preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes to start with. Enough time has also passed that our stock has done a little cooking, so I'll pop my breasts into the simmering stock to poach. This isn't going to just cook the chicken, it's also going to build up some chickeny flavour in the stock and make it an awesome base later on down the road. I left these ones in for about 15 minutes, and that seemed to be about perfect. Enchilada time! Into a large frying pan goes some onions, garlic, diced capsicum, ground cumin, and chili powder. I'll get these ones cooking a little and then into the pan goes half of our tinned corn kernels. I want to toast everything here to release the sweetness of the corn and wake those spices up. When they're looking nice and toasty, in goes some tomato passata. I usually try to buy good quality tomatoes, as they don't seem to contain as much water as the cheap ones and have a brighter sweet flavour, but they aren't always available, so if it's looking a little thin, just let it cook down a little longer to thicken up. Then in goes some refried beans. These are already cooked, so I just need to bring them up to temperature. The refried beans are going to give us a fair bit of substance, and we shouldn't need to use as much chicken to get a few hunky enchiladas. I'll give it a taste and season it up, and this can go to the side for a sec. "15 minutes is up, so I'll grab out my poached chicken breasts and get them onto a plate. And while I would usually try and shred them the second they come out of the pot because I'm impatient, they can sit to the side for a while we build up a little glaze on our roasting chicken. Just a little soy on the soy half, and Korean on the other, and I definitely thought I'd mix these up, but apparently today is a good day. And back into the oven they go, and I can get this chicken shredded. I'm not sure this has really cooled down at all, but we're here for a good time, not a long time. You can shred these as fine or as coarse as you like. I do want some chunks for texture in the later dishes, so I won't go crazy, but just shred them as much as you feel like you need to. And in the time it's taken me to do that, the chicken in the oven is ready. And check that out, the glaze has done its thing, it looks perfect, so I can sit to the side to hang out. And back to these enchiladas. I'm just going to put about a third-ish, maybe 3/8 for the imperial crowd. Give it all a good mix, and I'll knock out a really basic sauce to go over the top of these bad boys. Into a small bowl goes a little more passata, not on the bench, and I'll season it up with some chili powder, ground cumin, and salt. Then into the base of this cute little non-stick tray, I'll spread out about half of the sauce and we can get these things rolled. Aye, it looks like I should get about 3 good sized enchiladas. So I'll spread some out on a tortilla, roll it up, awkwardly might I say, and squeeze them into my little tray. Then splash the rest of the sauce over the top, trying to keep them kind of even. Then sprinkle some shredded Mexican blend cheese over the top, because we need to be culturally accurate. Then into the oven they can go for about 20 minutes or until heated through and the cheese is nice and toasty. Just as a note here, it's a few days later while I'm editing this video, and those enchiladas are pretty massive. I just had half of them for lunch and 3 would easily count as 2 lunches, and I'm a pretty big eater, so maybe there's 8 meals, but back to the video. Soup time! Good old chicken and sweet corn is one of my all-time favourite soups. I love it when I get Chinese takeaway, but it's a really easy one to knock out quickly, and it's going to fit perfectly with the recipes we have planned. I'll whisk up a couple of egg whites and get onto the stove. I'll start in a medium-sized pot with a little sesame oil and get my onions and garlic in. While they're cooking away, I'll ladle a bit of my homemade chicken stock into a jug to make sure I don't get too many chunky bits, and then it can go into the pot. I'll keep a little aside for the next recipe and strain what's left for another day. When it comes to a simmer, I'll add in my reserved corn kernels and cream corn and bring it back up to temperature. Then some more shredded chicken. I'll just add in about half of what's left. Is that 2 1/2/8? Maybe 5/16? I can't figure this imperial system out. And good job on the shredding. How did I miss that? Then in goes a little soy for seasoning along with the little ground white pepper. When that comes up to a simmer again, in goes a little corn flour mixed with water for a little bit of thickening. Then in goes the egg whites. I'll keep stirring them until they look nice and cooked and stringy, and there aren't any big clumps. In goes some chopped spring onion, and a quick check for balance. It could use a little salt and a splash of soy. And that's another one down. We're getting close now, just one to go. For the last recipe, it's about as simple gets. A basic spaghetti and red sauce, but we will add a little extra something. Like a good mullet, I'll pop a pot of water on over the back to party and get to business up the front. I definitely went too hard on the garlic in all the other recipes, so I'll chop a little more now and shred a little parsley. Into our heated pan goes the last of our onions and our last bit of garlic. We want to cook these ones down nice and slow to bring out their sweetness. Now I'm giving this one a little bit of a twist on penne alla vodka, or as the kids call it these days, vodka pasta. You don't need to do this, but it adds a little extra something, and fire is always good. So I'll pop my shot into my pan and give it a little spark. And keep cooking until the flame dies out and the liquid is reduced. Then in goes the little bit of chicken stock we reserved earlier, followed by the tomatoes. This one can simmer for a few minutes while we put the spaghetti on, and we can herb it up with a little dried oregano and basil. That's simmered long enough that the pasta's just about cooked, so into the pan goes the last of our chicken, a knob of butter, and some of that chopped parsley. Then I can bring the pasta pot over here and fish that pasta out. I'm okay with some of the pasta water coming along for the ride to loosen that sauce a little bit, and make that sauce coat the pasta perfectly. And we're there. Nothing left to do now but plate everything up. You would do this into your meal prep containers, but my lack of planning has them currently in the dishwasher. So for the roasted chickens, onto a plate with some of that coconut rice, the stir-fried choy sum, and the 2 different types of chicken. For the enchiladas, simply onto the plate with a little sour cream and fresh coriander. The sweet corn soup just goes into a vessel of your choice with a little more spring onion. And finally, the pasta. Just a nice amount onto a plate, making sure the chicken is divided equally. And look at that, there's probably another serve in there. Then just a lashing of fresh parmesan and some chopped parsley, and we're all done. This is a lot of food from one chicken. It's amazing how far you can stretch your proteins with a little planning and effort. No single recipe here is groundbreaking. They're all simple in their own right and don't take a lot of time to prepare. But altogether, they have a huge amount of variety. And I'm not mad about not having to think of anything for lunch for a whole week. This took me about 2 hours to get together in total, which seems like a bit of a commitment. But if you think about how long you would spend cooking every day, it's a massive time saving over the week. Thanks for watching the video, everyone. If you've made it this far, thanks very much for hanging out. This was my biggest cooking production to date. What did you think? Would you like me to tackle another multi-recipe video? Please let me know in the comments below. And if you liked it, please consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel. See you on the next one!